Hey, my name's Dan Perry. I'm delighted to be here at POSNA in Vegas. I'm really sad that I'm not actually at POSNA in Vegas. So I'm really sorry to be missing today. But look, I'm going to tell you all about the trials across the pond, and this is what sunny Liverpool looks like. So Richard Horton, who was the editor of The Lancet, he wrote about twaddle to trials in well, I'm going to tell you about the story about twaddle to trials in children's orthopedics because Richard Horton, the editor of The Lancet, said that surgical research is comic opera with questions but few answers. But what you know is that within Impact and also across the world, we've been doing more and more proper research in children's orthopedics. And so in the UK, our version of COMET is called Science. So surgery or casts for injuries of the epicondyle in children's elbows. Science. Sounds cool. And so you know what this is about. It's exactly the same as your trial. We've built them both together. So it's about medial epicondyle fractures, about displaced ones. Like in the US, everyone told us it was going to be impossible. And we set up all the same systems to make it possible to make everyone get on board. Even my family got on board. That's how big it was. It was tough for us in the UK alone. Our population's about a fifth of what yours is. And so we also had to get Australia and New Zealand on board. So this is very much a trial of the UK, plus Australia and New Zealand. And the big thing about this trial is we learnt the language of trials. We got consultants, we got staff surgeons randomizing. And that's, as you've learned, is no mean feat to get everyone together and say, look, we've got genuine equipoise, we've got genuine uncertainty. And a lot of that made people quite uncomfortable because they weren't used to being uncertain. Surgeons aren't usually uncertain people. So we got groups of psychologists to get surgeons to do role play. We got them to talk about what it was like to get people involved in trials. We got them to understand the language of trials. Well, firstly, it's not a trial, it's a study because families don't like the word trial. They think that's what happens to guinea pigs. We talked about tossing a coin or rolling a dice because people don't like that. They don't like the analogy of kind of the gambling to try and decide their child's treatment, but they do like fairness. So we don't talk about tossing a coin or rolling a dice. We talk about fairly allocate the treatment between the two interventions. So randomization isn't gambling. It's about fairness. And then we never look at new treatments versus old treatments. We always, everyone would always want the new treatment, and so therefore we always decide between the two treatments. And so for me, randomization is where we fairly allocate between two interventions using a process called randomization or using a study process called randomization. And we also learned to build research teams, and that's fundamental to what we do. We've got a massive WhatsApp group that's really, really active for each of our different studies, and that really keeps it alive. It really builds the fun. And I know that's a bit more challenging in impact because I don't think in the US you've got such a as keen on WhatsApp groups as we are in the UK. But it's a really, really good way of keeping everyone tight. As soon as someone recruits, there's like a million love hearts and real message of encouragement to try and keep everyone on board. And the recruitment for science, well, it's been going for a few years now, but it's gone really, really well. We actually recruited 335 patients and we finished it just a bit over this time last year. And my day today has actually been writing up the results for the Lancet. And so now we've got all the results and I'm still not able to share them. I'm sorry, because that I would have been able to love to have done that today. But I'm not allowed to until it's accepted by the Lancet. But it is going to be amazing, and that's the main thing you need to know. But then we started getting really difficult, and you know this too. For us, craft, which is your drift, is even harder. Getting people to randomize between reduction and no reduction. Doing no reduction in the UK was really, really hard as people were very aggressive and very interventional. We randomized some wicked ones. I mean, look at this. It was a really horrible Saltaris too. So what was different about the UK one is we included completely off-ended fractures as well as other displaced distal radius fractures. And so our total number we needed was 750, of which at least 200 have to be completely off-ended. So we're going to look at the 200 group separately to the we're going to look at the whole group together, but then we're going to section out the 200 group to look at a different analysis within that as well. So we had some really cool, nice fractures that remodeled beautifully. And I've got lots of pictures and we've got a booklet that we show surgeons and I can happily share that with any of you because it's really helpful. So this was my worst or best, but it depends which way you look at it. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be hideous. And I thought it was going to be even more hideous. but over time, it magically grew straight. Well, straighter, because kids are cool. So I'm not sure if the music to that bit worked because I got a flash thing on my screen, but there was really cool music to that because the craft study finished its recruitment, which is awesome. And so this month, June is this month, May, we've actually brought the June follow-up slightly forward to get the 1 year final outcome so we can have that at the end of summer, which is going to be really, really cool. And that was just the tipping point. And there's been an explosion of research in children's orthopedics. We've now got a study active called Odd Socks about distal tibial fractures, which so far has recruited 46 patients. We've got a big SPOS study about severe SUFI, which, if I'm really honest, is a complete flop or was a complete flop. And we're going to pull that one because it's just too hard to randomize severe SUFI. Everyone's got an opinion and it's very, very difficult. So that one's going to finish at about 15 patients. Got Op Non-Stop about Perthes disease, which is storming ahead with 18 patients, but it's only been open for a few months. So that's surgery versus no surgery for Perthes disease. It's got a beautiful app with whole physiotherapy intervention in the non-surgical arm, with the surgical arm being containment surgery. And Adam Galloway's helped us build that. And that's what you get if you get no surgery, which is really cool. We've got one about infection, which also finishes this month, which is really cool. We've got one about scoliosis that so far randomized 450 kids between conventional bracing and nighttime bracing. And look, it's not just me anymore. There's loads of chief investigators all over the country who are really, really delivering these studies, as well as Jay and you guys in the US. So it is a massive effort, and we've already got a pre-planned meta-analysis to bring Comet and Drift along together with craft and science to really pull things together. So it's massive, and I guess the news for us is the one we've just had funded. It's called Superman, and it's about supracondylar fractures. It's basically including all supracondylar fractures, so the Gartland 1s, immobilization versus no immobilization, Gartland 2As, reduction versus no reduction, and Gartland 3s, medial versus lateral wires. It's going to be a massive, massive trial, and that's going to start probably in about 6 months or so. So look, we've got really, really snazzy now. This is our research guide's gone from being a blank page to a really professional book, and it's even jazzier this year actually. Check out our website, TOTS Research. You can always reach out to me. I'm really, really keen to share what we've learned in the UK with you guys in the US. I want this to be a big joint collaborative because that's the only way we're going to do the even more and more difficult studies. And in terms of what Richard Horton said, research opera or comic opera questions but few answers. Well, our first trial, which was called the FORCE study and was published in the Lancet a couple of years ago now, which is really cool. And it proved him wrong that we surgeons can do it. And as I just said before, the second study, Science, is currently winging its way to the Lancet. So hopefully he likes that too. So peds orthopedics is officially an academic specialty, and it's a collective interest and a massive team that wins. The world is joining in, and it's, in the UK, it's extended beyond orthopedics with pediatricians asking for our help, and nothing is impossible. Say it's impossible, but we'll go with impossible. And for my team in Oxford, I always tell them that what we've done has really changed things within the world. And we've succeeded because we've got this big national infrastructure, a clear agenda. We've managed to bring our patients with us, and we've built these brands around the research, which I think is really, really important. We've effectively communicated with WhatsApp, and we've been able to demonstrate the impact. How has this changed practice? And I know throughout the world, the FORCE study has changed the way that distal radius and torus fractures are treated, which has really encouraged our funder to give us more and more money. And ultimately, it's about building teams. And the team in the UK, we really love each other. This WhatsApp group really brings us close together, and I'm really, really grateful for what's been achieved. So I'm not sure if this is going to work.
So pediatric research is awesome, and increasingly awesome because it's getting bigger and better, involving more sites in a more collaborative and multidisciplinary way rather than just single surgeon, a series of patients.
It was very difficult to get off the ground, but now it is like a freight train, and we are breaking new ground seemingly every year.
There are lots of questions we need to answer. That's why it's awesome, because there's lots to gain. as a group of clinicians across the UK and even in Australia and New Zealand now, we can hopefully be in a position to answer some really important clinical questions so we can provide better evidence-based care to the families and children that we look after.
It supports our decision making and includes children in high quality research.
It leads to new treatments that improve children's lives, and it also supports evidence-based practices, ensuring we use effective and safe treatments.
It's really important that when we treat the children that we see, that we treat them to the best of our ability, using the most up-to-date research done in the best way, so we can make the right decisions at the right time for the right children.
There's an awful lot of questions to be answered, and it's great that we're trying to do it together on a national scale.
How much teamwork we've generated, not just around the UK, but all over the world.
We've done some great studies and get some very fundamental answers soon.
There's just so much that we don't know, and it's really cool to be on the verge of finding all this stuff out for the very first time and being able to implement it with our kids for the future. Whereas in the rest of orthopaedics, lots of stuff already is known, so we're like on the verge of discovery, which is pretty awesome.
Children's orthopaedic surgeons have all got together for the first time and decided that we're fed up of not knowing the answers to certain questions. We're fed up of all doing it different ways. And through that, we're able to answer even the most difficult questions that we never thought possible before. It's really, really awesome, and it's all because we're working together.